The United Kingdom used to be seen as a great place to live, but now it's facing big problems. There's a crisis with immigration, meaning lots of people are coming to live in the UK, and it's causing issues. Many people losing patience with the government. Nigel Farage, a politician, has caused trouble for previous prime ministers and is now causing problems for the current leaders too. Many people think the government isn't doing a good job of controlling how many people are coming into the country. There are lots of people in the UK who think immigration is bad for the country, but some people think it has good effects too. However, the plans to handle immigration haven't worked well, and the country needs new solutions.
The Midlands city of Coventry, population almost 350,000 at the last census. But with net migration passing 600,000, it gives you a sense of just how many people came to the country last year, towards double a reasonably sized British city. International students account for more than 200,000 of those arrivals. This group have come from all over the world, from Singapore to India and Morocco, to study at the University of Warwick. Why did you want to come to the UK to study?
You're experiencing a very, very different lifestyle, you know.
Do you think most people who've come to study from abroad will stay in the UK when they finish their courses?
I know most people that I know from my course in third year, final year, have got their grad job or masters in the UK. So I would say yes, most part, yeah.
They will stay. Over a third of the university's student population are currently from overseas, its highest ever level. But whatever the upside, there are questions which we all remember people were asking on the lead up to Brexit, which we're hearing again in Coventry.
How many more houses do we have to build? How many more are they going to be putting in the hospitals? Are they going to be putting more surgeries? So that's my main concern, how we're going to be able to cope, because we're not really coping now, are we?
Next, we meet Ricky, who works in a warehouse. To be honest, he seems despondent and doesn't buy the government's argument that so much migration is needed to fill jobs.
I've tried to get into work in different places, and all it is now is agency, minimum wage, when really it should be concentrating on local people, getting them in, training them up.
So with unprecedented numbers of people coming to the UK, it's hard to square why some companies are struggling to recruit, like this veterinary diagnostics firm, which has been advertising for a pathologist for a year. So is the problem that this country is not doing enough to grow its own talent?
Possibly, yes. It is, it is very sad because there is a high need of that, and there's no incentive for people to, become a specialist at the moment.
The government says it's restricting the rights of relatives to come with some visa holders, and it remains committed to reducing overall net migration. But its pledge to deliver control of borders means the stakes on migration are higher than ever. Lisa Holland, Sky News, Coventry.
The housing market is in chaos. There aren't enough homes for everyone, especially in cities where most immigrants go to live. The National Housing Federation says the UK needs to build 340,000 new homes every year to meet demand, but they are not building nearly enough. This shortage makes house prices and rent go up, making it hard for both local people and newcomers to find affordable places to live. People want a nice place to live that doesn't cost too much, but finding such a home is getting harder. Mortgage payments are rising and rent prices are also going up. There are long waiting lists for social housing, sometimes up to 10 years. Meanwhile, more immigrants and refugees are coming, which puts more pressure on housing and other public services like schools and hospitals.
This small village in England is divided as dozens of asylum seekers have been moved into a local hotel.
It's turning us into racist people, which I don't want to be racist, but it's making me dislike these people.
These poor people that have gone through hell need somewhere to go to.
Some villagers have been holding protests. One turned violent, and a local man was charged after a police officer was injured.
Save Kedworth!
What do you think the village needs saving from?
Just 250 strangers that we don't know anything about.
Kedworth is a sleepy village. Most people know each other. It's a very small community.
Kegworth is great, so it's a really nice community spirit.
From sleepy to strife, a community in conflict.
Get out! Cheeky!
This village on the edge of Leicestershire, population 3,500, has found itself bitterly divided over the arrival of around 100 new residents.
They've been dropped in a village where there's literally nothing to do. Things have changed completely, and it has caused a divide in the village.
The guys have come from war-torn countries. They want to feel safe and welcomed and contribute to the community.
This is what caused the clashes. There aren't many facilities in Kegworth, but the U Lodge was one of them. It's a family-run hotel with a gym, a pool and a popular restaurant. But last month, without much notice, all bookings were suddenly cancelled and all the signs to the hotel were covered over because the owner had signed an exclusive contract with the Home Office to use the hotel for asylum seekers. And its local communities feeling the fallout. This is Operation U Lodge, a campaign group that's been holding regular demos.
People are just scared to walk the streets now.
What are you scared of?
Well, we don't know because we don't know anything about these people.
They're marching to the home of the man who owns the hotel. He's a local businessman. He's well known locally because he's owned that hotel for 25 years and is friends with some of the residents. The owner, Jeremy Pick, hasn't responded to our request for an interview. The villagers say he's refused to answer their concerns. But as they shout their slogans, some passers-by start arguing with them because they say they don't support their protest.
It's this populist politics that we've got now, that's what worries me. Everyone's polarised. Nobody talks to each other anymore. And it's Donald Trump politics, isn't it?
Every government so far has failed to solve these problems. Even though Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is trying to fix things, it's a huge challenge. He's working on immediate solutions and long-term plans to reduce the strain on housing and manage immigration better. One of his ideas is to make it very clear that if people come to the UK illegally, they won't be allowed to stay. Sunak has made deals with countries like Albania to send back illegal immigrants and has set up more patrols to stop people from crossing the English Channel in small boats. He's also increased funding for border security and the National Crime Agency to enforce these rules more strictly. The plan includes sending some asylum seekers to Rwanda to discourage people from trying to come to the UK illegally.
Protect our kids! Terror is not racist!
Why they're chanting save our children, I don't know why they're chanting that. Save them from what?
In Kegworth, one of those waiting for his claim to be heard is Hassan, who told me he escaped the war in Syria. He asks us not to show his face because his family are still living under the regime.
And every day, bombs, every day, we were seeing our friend dead, our relative dead.
Some people think that you get lots of money, you get benefits.
I don't think Syrian come here to get money. We left the war. We don't think in this way.
He gets emotional as he tells me he didn't want to fight for the government or for the opposition groups.
We escaped from our country because I don't want to kill anyone, so I left my country.
But every week outside his temporary new home, there have been rowdy rallies.
Yeah. They say, save our village. I don't know. Save our village from what? From the human? I just want to tell you that I am human.
The protests have caused deep divisions. On social media, rumours are rife.
I had my phone stolen, but it was before they actually came to the village. But it was all over the social media that it was them, and it wasn't them. It's just like everything with Facebook, it snowballs.
What shoe size do you wear?
40.
40? Oh, what's that in English?
On the other side of the divide, Operation Open Arms Kegworth, residents who have set up a group to welcome their new neighbours.
I'm learning about their culture, I'm learning different languages. I see their families sometimes virtually or photos, and they've met my baby, and Yeah, it's changed my life a lot. It makes you realise how lucky you are.
There are some people who are very hostile to the guys being here. How do you deal with that? You know, you've been labelled lefties and do-gooders.
I think people are entitled to have different views, and some people can think that they shouldn't be in our village, but still that they're people who need help, whether they should be in our village or whether they think the government should have housed them somewhere else isn't really relevant.
More than 50,000 asylum seekers are stuck in hotels. The Home Office says the system is under incredible strain and that they'll work with local authorities to ensure the arrangements are safe for local people and for the hotel residents. But they admit there's no deadline to end their use. And so, villagers in Kegworth and their new arrivals have no idea how long they'll be staying.
However, there are questions about whether these plans will work. In the past, human rights activists and European courts have stopped similar plans. Sunak has said that he won't let foreign courts block these efforts and that the UK government will decide how to handle immigration. While these plans are being figured out, many British people are struggling. The cost of living's going up and more people are at risk of becoming homeless. Rent prices are rising at record rates and it's getting harder for young people to buy homes. Many asylum seekers are being housed in hotels, which has caused some British citizens to lose their jobs because the hotels are no longer available for regular business. This situation has also caused tension in communities. Some locals feel uneasy about the large number of strangers moving into their areas. In some cases, people describe the arrival of immigrants as an invasion, which adds to the fear and division among people. The government is trying to address these issues with better border control and the plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. If these measures work, they might reduce the number of people coming to the UK illegally and ease the pressure on public services and housing. However, it's still uncertain whether these plans will succeed or if they will cause more problems.
Making breakfast for her children Mahad, Ryan and Muntaha is the first of many daily duties for Aisha Imtiaz. The paratha bread is a taste of home in Karachi before a day of work and study in London. Her family is here while Aisha takes a master's degree in journalism. But she could be one of the last to enjoy the support of her loved ones after the government tightened visa rules for dependents of students.
It's just led to this peace of mind that I have my tribe with me. Especially for women of the South Asian diaspora, it's not very easy, those who have children or husbands, to leave your home country and pursue higher academics and education without having at least your husband, if not your kids, with you. I feel like it's really cutting off a huge swath of society.
Very few are now allowed to bring their dependents with them as part of government promises to cut immigration. The Home Office says that in the 12 months up to March this year, there were more than 111,000 visas issued to student dependents. That's 25% less than the previous year, but still nearly 7 times more than in 2019. Aisha is one of around 700,000 international students in the UK, accounting for about a quarter of universities' teaching income.
The thing that we're saying both to the current government and to political parties contesting this election is, for God's sake, just give people stability. We want the students who are thinking about maybe studying abroad in 3 or 4 years' time to know what the deal is.
A better future for her daughter was a big part of Aisha's decision to leave Pakistan for the UK, while husband Saqib Rafiq has been able to work in the care industry on his visa. Aisha doesn't believe the system is being abused or that it needed fixing.
The image in our imaginations is so exaggerated that it's people's grandmas and entire cohorts of people coming in. There's intense documentation in the way that you prove that these are your children and this is your husband. So it's a very controlled process.
Student-dependent visa applications were down 79% in the first 4 months of this year following the restriction. Unless things change after the election, the childhood memories of other families will have to be made elsewhere. And some academic dreams perhaps abandoned. Paul Rees, Al Jazeera, London.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
Despite all these efforts, the reality on the ground remains challenging. Many people in the UK feel that their lives have become more difficult because of the immigration crisis and the lack of affordable housing. For example, families are struggling to find homes they can afford, and the rise in housing costs is making it hard for many to make ends meet. The shortage of housing has led to overcrowded living conditions, with some families having to live in cramped spaces. This can cause a lot of stress and tension. Additionally, with more people competing for the same resources such as jobs and school places, it's understandable why some locals feel frustrated and worried about the future. Rishi Sunak's government is working hard to change this, but there are still many hurdles. For example, the plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda is very controversial. Many human rights organisations argue that it's unfair and could put vulnerable people at risk. They believe that sending people who are fleeing dangerous situations to another country isn't the right solution. European courts have also previously blocked similar plans, and it's uncertain if Sunak will be able to overcome these legal challenges.
Coleman Wong came to the UK from Hong Kong 7 months ago. Eligible to come here because of Britain's colonial ties, he's part of one of Britain's fastest growing communities. He says he had no choice but to move.
For my kids' educations, for a more stable life, for freedom, and we have no other option.
The last year has seen a net migration increase of more than 500,000 people. In spite of the record number of people coming to the UK legally, the government says it wants to reduce overall net migration, insisting this year there have been unprecedented circumstances causing the rise. Yet in the West Midlands town of Walsall, like so many other places, they're struggling to recruit workers.
They are looking for people to do the work, but they have no one to do the work now. It seems like maybe British people or UK citizens, they don't want to do that kind of work.
There's a nod to Britain's shifting migration history on most high streets. But Brexit saw a huge move back to Eastern Europe, according to Romanian shopkeeper Sile Dan.
I think some of them left, yeah, because I know some people, they didn't even apply for status, settled status. I think that they decided to go back because they didn't think that they can survive here or they can have a good life.
But the impact on changing communities isn't always easy to understand. Just ask 86-year-old Peter Webster.
If there's too many come onto this island, it'll sink. We've accepted immigrants for hundreds of years, but now it's getting beyond a joke. To me, it is.
Britain is balancing the quest to fill jobs, get the economy going and manage its complex relationship with migration. Lisa Holland, Sky News.
Another part of Sunak's plan is to improve border security to stop people from crossing into the UK illegally. This involves increasing patrols and working with other countries to prevent illegal crossings. However, this is easier said than done. The English Channel, a narrow stretch of water between France and the UK, has become a hotspot for people trying to reach the UK in small boats. Despite the risks, many people are still attempting the dangerous journey, which shows just how desperate they are. Moreover, there is the issue of integration. For those who do manage to settle in the UK, integrating into a new society can be difficult. They may face language barriers, cultural differences, and sometimes even discrimination. Local communities also need to adjust and find ways to welcome and support newcomers, which can be challenging when resources are already stretched thin.
The parties have been talking about immigration, but what does the public think? Well, an exclusive poll for Sky News has found that across the country, 43% of people asked thought that immigration has a negative impact on British society. That's compared to 35% here who say it has a positive impact. So clear difference there. And there are also clear differences between age groups. 54% of 18 to 24-year-olds thinks that immigration has a positive effect. But the older you get, the lower this number comes down. When you get to 65 and over, only 20% of those people thought immigration is good for society. And the results vary according to location. Actually, it's only in London and in Scotland that people were more likely to say that immigration has a positive impact. So the lighter the colour here, the less supportive people are of immigration. You can see that band here. Northern Ireland not included in this survey. But the poll also revealed deep political distrust among the public. 52% of people said they think Labour aren't telling the truth about what they really think about immigration. Not much better for the Conservatives, only 49% here, so not a big difference, saying the same thing about them. The Lib Dems doing slightly better, maybe they spelt it out better. But every region, every demographic distrusted the main two parties here on this point. The exception here, Reform UK, the only party people think are telling the truth about their views on immigration. 60%, big number, agree the party was saying what it genuinely thought. That doesn't mean they necessarily agree with the public, but they do think they're saying what they think. And the people don't really trust the main two parties to follow through on their promises. People thought that immigration would increase under both a Labour, that's what they're talking about here, and under the Conservative government, whatever it is, despite believing that the policies of the parties is to reduce it. And finally, respondents also thought that cutting immigration would have a negative impact on the NHS, on hospitality and on social care, but a positive impact here on housing and the housing crisis. So how do we take all that together? Well, the public understands that cutting immigration would hurt those very important sectors. So does it want politicians to be honest about that and cut immigration anyway? Or does it want to do the same things as the parties are doing, saying that immigration is too high, but to avoid damaging those sectors, keep it high while still complaining?
On the other hand, it's important to recognise that immigration can bring positive changes too. Immigrants often contribute to the economy by taking on jobs, starting businesses and bringing new skills. They can also enrich the cultural fabric of society by sharing their traditions, food and languages. Finding a balance between managing immigration and ensuring that newcomers and locals can live together harmoniously is crucial. The government needs to address the housing crisis as well. Building more affordable homes is a key part of the solution. This requires significant investment and planning. The National Housing Federation has called for the construction of 340,000 new homes every year. But meeting this target is a huge challenge. It means not just building houses, but also ensuring that the necessary infrastructure, like schools, hospitals and transportation, is in place to support growing communities. The cost of living crisis is another major issue, with inflation driving up the cost of everyday essentials like food, energy and transportation. Many people are finding it hard to cope. The government has introduced measures to help, such as subsidies and support for those on low incomes, but these efforts may not be enough to fully alleviate the pressure on households.
The Channel migrant crisis is a threat to women in Britain. GB News has uncovered video footage used by people smuggling gangs that uses young, drunk, white girls as twisted bait to entice North African men to come to Britain. A cursory glance of Google reveals numerous cases of convicted rapists trying to cross the Channel or people who've been accused of sexual offences since arriving. Now, it appears that human traffickers are essentially telling Channel migrants that if they come to Britain, there'll be a ready supply of young, intoxicated women for them to just have their way with. We've got a snapshot of one of these promotional clips for you now. We'll be playing a lot more of this throughout the course of the show. But these videos have been used by several accounts on Instagram with hundreds of thousands of followers. The latest Channel migrant figures from yesterday appear to indicate as well that around 87% of those who crossed between January and June this year are men. Some of the images we were showing you there, of course, were also from across Europe generally. But it should be blindingly obvious that allowing tens of thousands of sexually repressed men from countries where women are treated as property or second-class citizens and the age of consent is somewhat of a grey area will put British women and girls at risk. But apparently that needs spelling out to people. Human trafficking gangs are using young, intoxicated British women as bait. I can remember a fair few years ago when the odd ruddy-faced, red wine-infused, portly politician would come out and say stuff like, well, if women want to be safer on the streets, then maybe they shouldn't go out looking like that. But that was wrong, wasn't it? Asking women to change the way they behave to keep themselves safe from men, of course, that's wrong. Now, I don't want to see women in this country have to change their behaviour to protect themselves from predatory men who think that they can come here and treat women as fair game. But I have a feeling that certain political groups are so fanatical in their support for open borders and unfettered illegal immigration in the Channel that it's probably only a matter of time before they do actually tell women to dress more modestly, drink less on nights out. Now, before the usual suspects pipe up, yes, I am aware that we already have a huge amount of rapists and sexual predators in Britain. In fact, it turns out that we've had a fair few in our own police force. And no, I am not suggesting that every single man coming across the Channel is a violent sexual offender. But what I am saying is that clearly, the idea that you can come to Britain to have sex with young women is being used as a selling point. Now, if the cost to the taxpayer isn't enough to stop this madness, if national security isn't enough, if nothing else is enough, surely the safety of young women should be.
Education and healthcare systems are also under strain. Schools are struggling with larger class sizes and limited resources, which can affect the quality of education. Hospitals and clinics are facing increased demand, leading to longer waiting times and overworked staff. Ensuring that public services can meet the needs of both current residents and newcomers is essential for maintaining social stability. Looking ahead, it's clear that there are no easy answers. The immigration crisis and housing shortage are complex issues that require careful and thoughtful solutions. The UK government must work with local authorities, community groups and international partners to find ways to address these challenges effectively. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and for more content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel.